Hello, welcome back. We Warriors Podcast, episode 3. We've got a guest this time, and it's not Morgan, sadly.
Because Graham is the lucky viewer that submitted his CV after the last episode, and
Definitely.
he's made it on to the squad. So
I just think that could have been you
yeah.
if you had submitted your CV. We could have chosen
The
you,
new-
could have been there.
the new episode of the Weeb Warriors with this guy, and yeah.
Brilliant.
I'm here.
Okay, so we're just going to jump straight in, I think. So, mainly the reason we got Graham is because we're going to go into a somewhat controversial topic to the anime world of sub versus dub. So we're going to discuss what are the positives of watching dub anime, what are the negatives of watching dub anime, and what are the negatives and positives of watching sub anime. So does anyone want to volunteer to go first, or I can start us off?
I mean, I can start if you want, because I've started watching One Piece recently. For some reason, my video stopped recording, by the way. Very sorry.
Just start it again. I'll fix it.
Technical
I
difficulties.
don't know why. My phone probably isn't set to record for a long time, so good luck with this. It's going to be like 17 videos. I'll keep doing what I can. So yeah, I've been watching One Piece, and I started off on the dub, and up until episode 500 odd, it was fine. The dub was there, and then I had to change to sub. And it's a weird transition going from one to the other, because you get used to voices for so long, and 500 episodes in, I was used to all these voices.
Yeah, especially one
But
which
then
is
I
like
switched.
500 episodes in.
Exactly, and then I switched to the sub, and it wasn't that bad of a transition either as well. Like the voices in the sub are all pretty much the same, apart from Frankie's and Chopper's, I suppose.
You say they're better or worse?
Frankie's is worse. Way
Frankie's
worse.
got a mad voice in Japanese, like.
Yeah, Chopper's is the voice of Pikachu, so I suppose it's better, really.
See, I've still have to watch it, but I'm not up to there yet at all. I've started with sub, so I don't know what it would sound like otherwise.
You won't see the difference, will you, really? Luffy's voice is sound as well, actually. He's got a proper, like, badass voice in Japanese, so I quite like it.
What one do you prefer, though?
Now,
Yeah.
sub. The sub is way better. And it's just the sub swears, so I mean, it's great. Before one of them, I was watching it before, and someone told to fuck off. I was like, that doesn't happen in the dub.
Yeah, they're a
There's
lot
not once in
more
the dub.
uncensored in the sub, because I think when it comes to Western publishers, they're a lot more strict on it, because I think they see anime as like mainly
Cartoon, basically.
like a cartoon, like a kid's cartoon, so they like censor it to hell. But
All anime over here ended up on like Cartoon Network, didn't it? So, like that's where Dragon Ball Z was, Cartoon Network.
in Japan, anime
Yeah.
is for
Yeah.
adults, so they just don't bother with censoring it.
In Japan, anime is for everyone. Like it's just a normal thing that everyone watches.
Yeah,
It's like-
well, that's what happened with One Piece, isn't it, as well? Sanji smoked cigarettes
Yeah.
in Japan, but
And,
over here, for some reason, they decided to change to lollipops.
Yeah,
Which
and,
made no sense at
It's
all.
the same in Naruto as well. They changed it, so they have Asuma, who's one of the senseis, and his like main thing was that he'd always have a cigarette in his mouth, and one episode, one of his students went to try and sort of do it in honor of his teacher, and in the anime, the sub, it was fine. He put a cigarette in his mouth, lit it, and smoked it. But in the dub, he just put a lollipop stick in his mouth, and that was it. I was like, well, that's a bit pointless, because that makes no sense to the character.
In honor of my sensei who smokes, here's a lollipop.
Yeah, basically.
Why is it always a lollipop? I mean, I suppose there's not much else.
It's
they can
either
do.
it's
They could
either
do,
a
like,
lollipop or a
toothpick
toothpick.
something.
It's either a
I feel
lollipop or a
like
toothpick.
A toothpick's cooler than a lollipop. Like,
Oh yeah,
the scenes with Sanji where he's just like got a lollipop, they look so out of place.
Yeah, it does.
It doesn't look right at all because Sandy's just badass, isn't he? He smokes and just looks cool, and then he's just like, "That was a fun fight, lollipop time."
It's so
ruins the character completely.
It does. Honestly, it does. And plus, I'm not like I mean, someone get me the stats. How many kids have watched an anime and then gone, "That guy's smoking. I want to get a cigarette."
It's probably not a lot, is there? Really, if you think about it.
I do remember on a similar sort of story to that. There was a kid that buried himself. Well, he suffocated himself in a sandpit because he was trying to copy Gaara off Naruto. That was in the West. That was Western. So
bloody hell.
There are some dumb kids out there.
Unfortunately, like the dumb kids thing is like it's very few and far in between. There's not a lot, really. I mean, that one kid done that. How many others have done that you heard of?
I honestly want to know the logic behind that because Gaara doesn't get buried in sand; he buries other people in sand.
Yeah, I don't know if like in the news report that I read, it said they were trying to copy Sand Funeral. But I doubt they asked the kid what he was doing. I reckon the kid was just trying to put the sand armor on. You know, like when Gaara fights Rock Lee and it cracks the armor, he's basically like covered in sand. I reckon that's what he was probably doing.
I was trying to do what Gaara does to his victims.
But then, like, what? For him to have like buried himself in deep enough sand to suffocate, where was like, either parents or guardian to stop him from doing that?
It was just a sandpit, like in the garden. It was in America, so they probably just thought he was playing in the garden and he was burying himself.
Surely you've got to be watching your kids and not realise that he's burying himself in sand. It's weird though, isn't it? Like when you look at anime in Japan, when you look over here in the West, like so much stuff's removed. There's Pokemon episodes that never existed over here, isn't there? As well.
Yeah, well, some of it's funny though. Some of it's hysterical because like I remember
like
there was an episode of Yu-Gi-Oh where I think it's Pegasus tries to take over Kaiba Corp. And he like gets the board on his side, and they try and kill Kaiba, but they've got guns in the sub. But in the dub, they remove the guns, so they're literally walking in, going like this to Kaiba, going like this to Kaiba, and he just jumps out the window, and they're just like going like that to shoot at him, and I'm like, what the hell is this?
That's ridiculous. That's insane.
They're literally using their fingers to try and shoot.
In the dub of Pokemon, didn't they not show the episode where James gets boobs?
Yeah.
The one where James gets boobs is completely removed, basically.
Yeah, we also didn't get that Porygon one where like
that was for seizure warnings though, wasn't it?
Which I can understand that one. But the boobs one, like
the boob one doesn't make sense. It's just a guy with boobs.
The thing is, for kids as well, and that's not sexual at all. People aren't gonna start like furiously like jacking off to James with tits, are they? Like,
no, I don't think that's what it was for. I think it was for because he was a guy, and they don't want to confuse children. You know,
even though it makes no sense. Like,
it was many moons ago. I know Morgan wouldn't be happy with that, but it's how it was, man.
That is how it was. Yeah, it would have been seen as weird and not right for kids to view. Basically,
sure, there was a gun in one of the Pokemon episodes as well, which they also removed, but I think they replaced it with something else. I can't remember what it was they replaced it with though. I don't think it was their fingers.
Probably a Pokemon shaped like a gun.
Probably.
Nah, we're not on in One Piece anymore. I thought about some of the guns in that bloody anime.
I do know one thing they replaced in Pokemon. Actually, they didn't replace it. They used to call it something else. Ash used to always eat rice cakes, and for some reason in their dub, I guess they thought kids wouldn't understand what a rice cake is, so they just called it a donut. But they didn't replace it in the anime with a donut. So he was eating like white donuts shaped like a triangle. So like, I don't know. It makes no sense when you watch it because Ash is like, oh yeah, let's have some donuts, and they're all just sitting there eating rice cakes.
Just call it a rice cake, for Christ's sake.
That makes more sense than just actually calling it a donut when it's an actual rice cake. Either replace it and make it a donut, or just call it a rice cake.
Yeah, like that's how stupid I think kids are. Though it's like, well, they're not going to understand what a rice cake is. We have to say donut.
It's a cake made of rice. It's not like it's difficult.
Like the thing is, I don't know about any other kids, but when I was a kid, if I didn't understand something, I'd go and Google what the hell it is. If I had rice cake on a show or something, I'd go and Google it and be like,
I don't think Google existed.
I couldn't go Google something.
I mean, we're different
no
ages. We're different ages, so
yeah, but
I would watch it.
Like, when Pokemon came out, We're OG, right? Me and Graham are actual Pokemon fans. We were watching it when it started, and Google didn't exist. So
OG Pokemon fans where you couldn't Google anything.
OG Pokemon fans, but you can't name any Pokemon after Gen 1.
I mean, first of all, we can't. But second of all, is that not what makes us OG?
I'd say OG is Kanto, Johto. Maybe Hoenn.
You can do Kanto, Johto. Silver's my favorite game.
Exactly.
We'll have to compare that in a future episode.
Get out of here, child.
We'll have to have a quiz.
Get out of here, yeah. Even though I absolutely adored Red and Blue, Gold and Silver, my favourites. Crystal's the best, Crystal was incredible.
I like Yellow.
Yeah, it had that Suicune on the cover as well, so Crystal was my favourite.
It's just it got both games mashing together and just made it even better. The whole side story.
We've gone so far off topic here, but I mean that's what this podcast is for. But slightly bringing it back.
It's fine.
One thing I will compare from Sub and Dub. I always joke about it. I always think, I always say ironically, to Graham as an example, that Sub is superior to Dub. Anyone that watches Dub isn't a true anime fan. It's not true. If anyone watches anime, I don't care if you watch Sub or Dub. It doesn't bother me. I just do it for the joke. But one thing that is kind of better with Sub is, as Graham said, it's so far behind that sometimes you have to watch Sub to catch up. But
yep, I done that with My Hero recently as well. I had to catch up with My Hero recently, so I had to watch the Sub because the Dub's been delayed because of COVID. And I was kind of gutted because Chris Sabat does All Might's voice, and not hearing Chris Sabat doing All Might was a bit shit. But it was still cool to watch it. I couldn't keep watching it. My Hero and Sub. I actually prefer the voices in Dub way more. So
see, some of them for me, and I think this is probably just a childhood thing. Some of them for me, I have to watch in Dub, but any new ones I watch now, I have to watch in Sub. Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball. Actually, Dragon Ball because it's kind of an in-between one because I watched Super in Sub, but
I watched it in Sub
Pokemon,
as well.
Yu-Gi-Oh, as I said, and there was another one, but I can't remember what it was. But I have to watch them in Dub. I can't watch them in Sub.
Beyblade.
Yeah, I couldn't go and watch it.
Beyblade, yeah, Beyblade's one.
I tried watching Digimon in Sub, and that was just too weird as well.
Yeah,
Digimon's I had to go back to the Dub.
Yeah,
I couldn't watch it.
I think though with Dragon Ball, even though we watched Super in Sub, I still prefer the dub voices. I only watched it because it was I wanted to be up to date because it was behind, but I still prefer the dub.
What? I was just thinking in my head, do I prefer the Sub over the dub? And the first thing and only thing that made me change my mind and say yes, dub is better for Dragon Ball was Goku's stupid.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so annoying.
I tried my best to wait till the dub was caught up with the Sub in the end, but then by the time I realised that the Sub was 80 episodes ahead, I was if not more, I was I have to watch the Sub. There's too many spoilers out now. I have to watch the Sub. So,
Frieza sounds pretty cool.
Yeah,
he's pretty creepy in Sub, which is a more appropriate one. He sounds like a spoiled little child in Dub, but in Sub he's actually pretty sinister and creepy.
I mean, I like him in both, to be fair. But Goku is way worse.
I think Cell is better in Dub because he just sounds Cell.
Oh yeah,
he just sounds arrogant and cocky.
Cell's badass. Naruto is one that's terrible in Dub. I mean,
especially the original,
his voice
before
Shippuden.
It's awful, and that whole Believe It thing as well.
Oh my god!
I don't know if it's just because I'm such a fan of Naruto, but I hate watching Dub Naruto.
No, it's because it's bad.
Well, it's bad. It's just bad. When I first started watching Naruto, fuck me, that voice.
My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Believe it.
I started watching it in Dub. I lasted 2 episodes and went to Sub instantly. Instantly, I just couldn't stand it anymore. It was shit.
I mean, Shippuden sort of makes it a little bit better, but it's still bad. It's still way better.
I mean, I never watched it, to be fair. Because I remember I watched the first couple of episodes in Naruto in Dub, and then it was awful. And then I switched to Sub, and then I've never changed. So I just know that it was awful. Maybe it's better now, but it definitely was awful.
Yeah, I never tried to go to Shippuden with the dub. I just kept with sub.
I watched it entirely in sub, but then because I've like watched clips and stuff and fights back and things, sometimes I've watched it in dub. Like I've watched it in clips and dub, and it's just like it's better, but it's not great.
I've heard Attack on Titan's dub's apparently good, but I haven't watched it in dub. Again, I've watched that in sub.
I think like new anime these days is actually quite good because they take it more seriously. They don't just get like any old voice actor to do it. Like they hire proper like established people, and yeah, it's like even when you were saying before about it being behind, so it's like with One Piece you were forced to watch the sub to catch up. Like these days, like Boku no Hero for example, I know it's behind now, but that's just because of COVID. But it was only like 2 weeks behind, which is pretty damn good considering it used to be like seasons behind. So like,
well, before COVID, it was up to date with the sub. Like every week, it was caught up, and then something happened. It was delayed by a week, some American holiday, and then all of a sudden COVID hit. And now I think the last 2 episodes aren't even out yet, still, for the dub.
One thing I can say to back up James is the fact that they take it seriously, and kind of going back to the Naruto stance is like, I will say, the voice of Itachi in Naruto dub is Crispin Freeman, I think, and he is awesome as a voice actor.
Okay.
He is like I think I prefer English Itachi to sub Itachi.
Damn.
What was it that he was in recently? He was in a game, wasn't he?
Oh, Overwatch. He's Winston.
Oh, is he Winston? Is he? That's weird. That Itachi is
I know.
I'm sure there's something else. Like we were playing, and then you were like, "Is that Itachi?" And then you googled it, and you're like, "It is Itachi."
Oh, it might be Code Vein.
Oh shit! Is he in Code Vein?
I think he's a character. I can't remember which character, but I think he's the character in Code Vein.
He's probably one of the main ones, then, and he's probably Lewis.
I want to say he's Louis. Because we only had the English language on Code Vein for one episode, and we only really met Louis.
Yeah. Which we only did because we didn't realise you could switch it to Japanese.
Ah, okay.
Otherwise we wouldn't know. That's normally my go-to thing with an anime game or a Japanese game. Like straight away in the menu switch it to Japanese, but for some reason we couldn't find it, and then literally the next episode we found it. So I don't know what we were doing in the first episode.
So did you play Persona 5 all in Japanese?
Yeah.
See, I played it all in English.
To be fair, I was learning Japanese at the time as well, so it really helped with that. Because especially with Persona as well, there was a lot of reading text on the phone, and then they'd say what they were reading as well, and it was helpful in that because I was trying to learn hiragana and I was trying to learn Japanese. So it's actually pretty useful just surrounding yourself with the language.
That makes sense. I played it all in English.
Now, one thing I'll say in defense of the dub is if you plan to do something else while you're watching it, if you plan to do something while you're watching the sub, good luck. You're not doing one or the other. I mean, I class myself as somewhat experienced with watching sub, and even I can't really just look away and do other stuff while sub's on. Like, you've got to stay and read the subtitles because, like, they can pop off the screen and there'll be a new line within seconds, and then you've missed an entire section of whatever's happening next. So, dub is good for, like... I remember an example of it, actually. It was a few weeks ago. I started rewatching Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, and I started off with the sub. Because I was like, do you know what? I might have grown up. I might like the sub more than the dub now. I didn't. I went back to the dub, but it was for two reasons. One is I was used to the dub, and two, I couldn't watch it and then also do stuff while I was watching it. And I didn't want to stay and watch another 120 episodes of an anime I've already watched. So, I put dub on and put it in the background.
Yeah, dub does help if you want to, like, say you're working or something and you want to watch some anime as well. You can put dub on and you can still watch the anime, but focus on your work as well at the same time.
Even if you just want to chill out and watch it, there's like a little bit more effort in reading the sub. You have to be a little bit more focused. You can't just like chill out. So
because you have to pay attention to when the screen changes and what the new screen says.
Yeah.
And read it.
Sub, I feel like is.
What was that?
Sub's weird because basically, okay, go on. Yeah, that was like very distorted, James.
I read it fast enough before it disappears.
Yeah, exactly. Sub's a weird one because if you like say someone texts you or something and you're watching a sub, if you look at a text and look back, you've missed about friggin' 3 sentences, and you go, what happened?
And
Something's changed.
sometimes the way anime progresses as well is that can literally happen. You can miss 1 or 2 lines of text, and you've missed the entire setup for the next episode.
Exactly.
And it's just like
it has its pros and cons. I mean, another one that I sub versus dub as well is Final Fantasy Advent Children, the film. I watched it in dub originally, and I thought, I'll give this sub a try. Looking back on the dub, it's awful. It's awful. The voices are terrible for most of the characters in the Advent Children film.
I can't remember if I watched it in sub or dub.
They made Barrett into Mr. T pretty much, which is like a really bad character for him. I mean, playing the remake game now though, the voices for the game now are fantastic. They smash out the mark now, and it's another one of those. Looking back, they just have gotten way better these days with voice actors.
So did you play that in dub?
Played it all in dub, yeah.
Can you switch it?
I don't know. I didn't even look. I'm guessing you can. It wouldn't surprise me if you could like. But yeah, I played that all in English voices, and the voices are fantastic. You've definitely learned a lesson from Naruto.
Well, I mean, anime in general is just becoming such a not even just a Western, but a worldwide interest now that I think everyone has to start taking it more seriously. I mean, look at like
massive.
Primark is a prime example. They're starting to get like anime T-shirts in constantly.
I'm wearing one
Pun
right
intended.
now.
Pun intended.
I can't even get it on the camera properly. There we go.
But even they're like delving into the anime scene. So
Yeah.
I think
Well, they got Dragon Ball and Boku, haven't they, as well at the moment? And Naruto has been in there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got one.
Yeah.
I've got some Naruto pajamas that I got from Primark, but I've also got a T-shirt. I think I had just one T-shirt.
yeah, I think I've got 1 or 2.
It's just good to see anime getting represented more in like the mainstream market as
Oh,
well.
I love it.
Yeah.
Especially because you can get up to T-shirt and Primark for like £6 now for anime. Whereas usually I had to charge like 15, 18 quid for a T-shirt, didn't you? So
Well,
Plus
I mean,
also,
much better.
even though it's only one day, it normally gets, or like a weekend, we're also getting anime movies in our cinemas now. And if you remember back when we went to watch Resurrection F, it was only in that showcase.
Oh god, yeah.
It's like the only one we could go to. But at least now it's like in the Odeon and everything. So like, it's getting
Yeah,
major
I think-
cinemas. It might only be for a couple of days, but it's definitely
It's better
steadily
than
improving
nothing.
because it used to just not be in there at all. So
Yeah, because Resurrection F was in that showcase cinema in like the middle of nowhere in Liverpool, and then all of a sudden, the Boku films, both of them being in the Odeon, and the Broly film was in the Odeon, wasn't it as well?
Yeah.
Which is amazing to see. Like mainstream cinemas are getting the anime films and caring about them,
And it's not even
and
like
they're making bank off them.
yeah, I was gonna say they're actually like popular. I think I can't remember what. I think it might have been Heroes Rising. I think me and James went to see it right before lockdown happened, and it was quite busy, and that was on the second day, I think. So it's
Such a good film as
even
well.
though it's like only for a weekend, and it's like the second day, it's still busy, it's still packed.
It's what I like about My Hero as well. The films are all canon, which is really cool.
Yeah,
Like-
I'm kind of I usually worry about when films get announced as canon though, because usually they go above and beyond with the films of an anime. Like
Yeah,
I
but
know
it's
a
a
lot
film,
of the
innit?
Naruto ones do.
it's meant
I
to go
mean,
above
The
and
My
beyond.
Hero films.
Yeah, but
the My Hero films are amazing, and like the Dragon Ball film as well. Like the Broly film was probably one of my favorite Dragon Ball films.
Like,
oh,
you
That's
want-
incredible.
yeah, same,
You
probably.
want something epic to happen in a film, otherwise it's like if I went and watched the film and I was like, well, that could have just been 2 episodes of the anime, then I'd be a little bit
Oh
annoyed.
no, I don't mean as in like comparing it to the anime. I mean making it canon. Like a lot of the Naruto films, I'm happy they weren't canon. Because like,
Yeah, but
they
see,
were
I'm not. It
so
makes me not be
round.
that bothered about them. Like, there's a
That's
bunch.
yeah.
There's
yeah,
a bunch of
James is
original
right.
Naruto films that I've not watched, and I'm like, I just don't feel any desire to go and watch them because they're not canon. It's like they don't count. It's like when you're watching filler and you're like, oh, I can't be bothered with this. I just want to get onto
Same.
the actual stuff.
I skipped the films for Naruto because none of them are canon. So I was like, well, what's the point then?
I mean, to be honest,
They're not gonna.
it's a good
be in the
job.
show.
It's a good job they're not canon because they're not very good. There's a few alright
Yeah.
ones, but
Well, that's the problem though, because you've seen like the ones that are canon now, like the My Hero ones and Dragon Ball ones.
yeah,
and
when they do them
they
right.
get the effort in them.
Heroes Rising was probably my favorite anime film of all time.
It was incredible.
It was insane.
And then you.
you know
I
what?
mean,
one of the best anime films of all time is?
What's that?
Go on.
The first Pokemon movie.
Oh, that's amazing.
Was that the
That
Mewtwo
was
one?
All the emotions. All the emotions in that film. Christ.
Proper quality though. Like Mewtwo was badass. Like he was an amazing villain.
The evil
And then,
clones looked awesome.
Friggin' Ash gets basically killed in that film.
Yeah.
And then gets brought back by the
Wow.
power of friendship.
The tears of a Pikachu.
I reckon people were well surprised by that. Like my dad took me to see that, and I reckon even he enjoyed it. If you
Ask
knew
him.
nothing about
Really
Pokemon,
good.
I was probably just like, oh, for God's sake.
Go and ask him
Gotta
now.
go and watch
Actually, as
this
well,
film.
the Digimon film was good as well. That was a really
I don't
good
think
movie
I've seen
as well.
the Digimon film.
The Digimon film was really cool. It was kind of like
Oh,
I can't
no,
explain
I
it
did.
really, but
The
seen
the
it?
start of
Giant
it is
parrot.
Greymon fighting the main villain, isn't it? Or a villain. And then it's that
Yeah,
weird
it's Greymon.
spidery, like, Digimon that's going round to the internet.
yeah.
Yeah.
G Spider.
Yeah, I
And
liked
they
that.
turn into,
I actually
like-
really liked that, yeah. I'll agree with you on that. That was a sick film.
So they were. That was a time where anime films actually were good, and then we had the Naruto films, which you say are shite, and now we have the new films, which are good,
Yeah.
like the Dragon Ball films and the My Hero films. So maybe
I'm
other
not-
animes will take note and go, let's do that. Then.
I'm not saying I hate when anime make a canon film. I worry a bit.
I mean, I can understand why you worry because it could be shite, but then the My Hero film, Dragon Ball films, who have both done canon films, are incredible. So
I mean,
it shows that as long as they put enough effort into them, then they're good. I haven't watched the One Piece films at all because they're not canon either, are they?
No, I haven't watched
So-
them either, to be fair.
But I've heard they're good, and the new one's called Stampede. Apparently, Stampede's an amazing film as well.
Yeah, I think the recent few have been pretty good from what I've heard.
Wasn't the one called One Piece Gold as well?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, the gold one. Like everyone was raving about that. So, and it got a bunch of figures like in their costumes, which I presume they wouldn't have made if the film sucked because no one would buy them. So like, there's got to be a reason that they produced them as well.
I have to give them a watch at some point. Once I've caught up near enough to wherever the films exist, I'll have to give them a watch. I saw some weird lines of One Piece figures where they're all just wearing jeans, and it's called One Piece Jean Line. I'm like,
Yeah,
why is this a thing?
I have Boa Hancock from that line actually, only because I won her in Japan.
It's just Boa in jeans.
Yeah,
They
because
should-
I won Luffy, and then I still had one go left, and like, they in Japan they have the same figures in the same machine, so like, that machine was just Luffy. So then after I won it, the woman was like, "Oh, you got one more go. Do you want it? Put it on a different machine." So I was just like, "Yeah, I guess put it on that one." It was literally one go, so one movement of the claw, and I won Boa Hancock with it. So
Fair enough.
end up with two
I
figures.
mean, you can't complain, can you really? Then?
No, it's sick. It's not
Just
one I would have
sounds
gone
weird.
for, but like for
Sounds
free
weird,
essentially, why not?
Having Boa Hancock in jeans just doesn't sound right.
that
Yeah,
whole
it looks
line
weird.
should
It
be
basically doesn't even look like the character.
that whole line should have been a thing for My Hero because they've got best genist,
Best Genist, yeah.
best boy, best genist.
Best Genist, what a weird character.
He's sick though. He's sick as a character. Who else?
There's
Who
a
else went
weirder
up against
character.
All for One? No one.
Let
Best
me
Genist
say,
did.
there's still a weirder character, but I don't think I can say the weirder character because James hasn't seen it yet, so I don't want to spoil the weirdness for him, so...
In fairness, we don't want to spoil anything for anyone. So
fair
I'm trying
enough,
to think
I
of who the
suppose.
weird character
Um,
is. I haven't noticed anyone
Ah,
particularly weird.
That's very weird.
You'll have
very
to
strange.
tell me after the filming.
tune
I
in
will
for
do.
the exclusive post show where Jake and Graham
Ooh,
discuss.
Thanks,
Discuss-
thanks.
Craig's on next week, next month, because God knows Morgan ain't going to be on it.
Jeez.
It's alright, she won't watch.
This is the one we should watch now.
James.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I've been sat this whole time drinking pink lemonade, by the way, so you know. Go me.
good for you.
Fair.
Still raspberry lemonade from Aldi. It's great.
Shout out to Aldi. Know you're watching. Anyway,
Give us a sponsorship.
we will now probably move on to
Probably.
our culture and news section.
Do we even have any news?
It's not really. It's the same thing, but we're talking about culture basically because news is dead.
COVID's still going. That's the news.
The news is COVID is still going on, which means there's no news.
Nothing's changed at the moment.
Nope.
Corona's still going on. America's got like 40,000 new cases in a day. Trump thinks it's going great. Good for him.
On the plus side, though, is so far our trips to Japan is still going ahead. So far.
Yeah, it's been pissed about a little bit, but the pissing about has somehow resulted in the extension of the holiday. So
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, that's fine then, isn't it?
I'll take that.
yeah. So far, but you know,
So far. So are you just basically like, at the moment, you're not basically planning on it definitely happening, you just sat right in the middle of yes and no,
Look at Bournemouth Beach, and that answers your question.
Yeah, stay in the middle.
problem is as well, I feel like it just doesn't seem to be going away at like anywhere. Even like China are having a second wave now, and they got rid of it ages ago. So I don't know. I feel like until we get a vaccine, it's not going to go away because
it's because of places like the UK and America.
But I mean, even in China, like they adhered to the lockdown and stuff, and once it was gone away, and they were like, right, we're sorted. Everyone went back outside, and it came back again. So I feel like, I mean, and we're not even over that first hurdle, and we're already letting people back out. So it's just going to be a mess here.
It's going to be horrible, yeah. Give it a few weeks, and you'll see like new cases just erupt over here. They'll erupt. It'll be like, oh, so guys, there's another lockdown because we had like 2,000 cases yesterday.
It's
gonna happen.
Lockdown shouldn't have even ended. It should have just eased up when the numbers were decreasing over a period of time. Like there was no new cases.
Yeah, well, and all the economy. Come on, the economy needs to get better.
But anyway,
people don't matter.
To avoid making this another coronavirus episode, we'll go into the culture side of things. So, James, do you fancy letting them know what the culture side is going to be?
Yeah, we're going to discuss a couple of things regarding. We mentioned a little bit last episode about how Japan have got like a sort of, despite them being like one of the most modern civilizations on the planet, in terms of technology and stuff, they also have a lot of intertwined traditional cultural stuff still in the city and still in the people and stuff. So we were going to look at a few of the different things that still exists in today, like some of the things that they still adhere to, or some of the traditional stuff that still exists and how it's maybe changed from what it used to be. So I don't know, do you want to start with the samurai since we mentioned it a little bit last time?
Yeah, can do, yeah.
So presumably everyone knows what the samurai were originally.
But if you don't,
weren't they wrestlers in a wrestling ring?
Well, they were sumos.
They were pretty much just soldiers from like back in the day for Japan, weren't they?
Yeah, well, so like feudal Japan, they were basically tribes, like clans is the best way to put it. So it was families that would like rise to power, and then they'd fight for like control of the nation and different areas of Japan, and then there would be wars. It happened here with knights, as Jake said. It's the same thing essentially. It was lords over here, and it was samurai lords over there, which obviously that kind of thing doesn't exist anymore because they're civilized now and they don't just fight each other for land and stuff. However, samurais themselves do still exist. There are still schools to go and train to be a samurai, and there are still groups of samurai in Japan. They just don't fight wars anymore. So essentially it's like a lifestyle, and the geisha is pretty similar, but we'll get onto that in a bit. If you want to be a samurai in Japan, you have to pretty much commit your entire life to it. So you go as a child and then be trained to become a samurai. You'd live as a samurai, and there are certain like ways of life and ways of dress that they have to adhere to, which is all super traditional. Like they wear kimonos and stuff, and they the way they live is very traditional as well, and they will essentially live their life as a samurai. But it's not like what are those guys called in America that don't use like electricity?
Amish.
Yeah, it's not like them where they pretend like it doesn't exist. Like they know. I think the second time I went to Japan, I met a samurai there who was in Tokyo, which is a super modern city. So it's not like they pretend that they don't exist. But he was doing like a demonstration on like samurai culture and stuff. It was in the museum, so it was like part of an exhibit there. But like, it's not like the Amish where they pretend normal life isn't going on. It's just a way of life that they sort of like have decided to take on and adhere to, and it's just a little piece of tradition in Japan that basically still exists. And rather than go and fight wars, they just put on shows and sort of like
It's like ceremonial.
try and celebrate that culture.
So can samurai not like participate with like watching TV and stuff?
I think they don't, but it's not because they can't. It is because they can't, but they've decided that way of life. Like they've chosen to live that life.
It's like
Okay.
I think you can leave, but it's then you're not a samurai anymore. Like if you decide to abandon that life, you can't go around being like, yeah, I'm a samurai. But
it's the same kind of
living in
logic
Tokyo.
with martial artists as well. Over there, it's like they commit their whole life to it. So like they eat, train, sleep, and just relax in temples and dojos and stuff, and they don't ever have like any normal access to what like people would usually do. Like you don't just go to your 9-5 as a samurai, come back, play the Xbox, and then sleep and go back to work.
It's a life, basically.
It is a whole lifestyle choice.
So is a sumo as well, by the way. Like they live in their own little, I can't remember what it's called now, but it's basically like group housing where all the sumo live. So they don't live a normal life either. And then they train in the dojo every day, and they make money from putting on shows and fighting in tournaments. So that's their job and their life, basically. And again,
That's
even
pretty
that, you train to become a sumo from like a really young age as well. You start as an apprentice, and then you've got to like work your way up. And they have a super specific way of living. Like their diet's very specific. That's why they're so big. And their way of life, like they're not allowed to leave the dojo area. That's where they live and train and stuff and fight. So that's another like real big commitment. It's like if you want to do it, you've got to basically put your life into it.
The thing is, like, you look at the sumo, and some people, like, uneducated people, will just think, like, he's fat. But, like, he's not, like, they've trained that way to look that way, to be that way, so they can fight like that.
They're super
That's
powerful.
their way.
They're like
Yeah,
rats,
no,
basically.
their strength is disgusting, isn't it, basically? They're not fat, they're just muscly
Well, they
as
build
hell.
mass, and then they also like they
Yeah.
work to define it.
One of the things you do as an apprentice, which shows how big of a commitment this is to become a samurai, by the way, to become a sumo, is because the sumos are so big, they can have trouble like wiping their own ass after they go to the toilet. And one of the things the apprentices have to do is do that for them.
Oh my god. Okay, so as an apprentice, you wipe the higher up sumo's ass, basically.
Yep. Because they can't do it themselves. And
It's like, so what did you say, mate? Well, I'm an apprentice sumo, so I wipe the ass all day.
and they eat a lot of food.
I was gonna say
to look
that
that way, so.
doing that after the diet that they probably have is
That's probably disgusting.
Now, if you
isn't
gotta
it?
To
commit-
them, by the way, to them, they don't think of it like I've got to do
No,
this again.
they don't.
It's an
I
honor.
knew they wouldn't,
It's
yeah.
an honor to them.
Yeah, it's an honor. They're like proper like loving it. They're like, yeah, look at this. I'm getting all these Kremlins off his ass. It's a good day today. I found some sweet corn.
oh.
Yeah, that's the apprentice diet.
The apprentice diet is leftovers.
Now, if you're gonna commit your life to one, I mean, I don't know about you guys. I'd personally rather commit my life to samurai rather than sumo after hearing about that.
If I'm choosing, yeah. But I suppose it's like James was saying, it's different though, isn't it? Because when you're in a lifestyle,
Yeah,
you don't look at it and
they'd
go,
see it
oh,
differently.
I've got to wipe ass.
If your
you think,
if
oh,
your
I've got
childhood
to wipe
hero was
ass.
a sumo wrestler, you'd be all about that life, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's-
you wouldn't see it as bad.
That's the other thing as well. The samurai are not like with the sumo wrestling, it is a sport. It's like Japan's national sport basically, and so the big sumo wrestlers are essentially celebrities. Like they're famous. So being a samurai is not like that at all. Like there's no like famous samurais that go around and everyone loves them. They're just like a group of people that live that way and have took on that lifestyle and try and like celebrate it. But so there's two different things that you're getting out of it. Like being a sumo wrestler is like you are getting the fame. And the glory and stuff. So
Okay, yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is very.
It is cool.
Another one
cool.
that we can probably talk about as well as sumo and samurai are geishas. Actually, do you know what? So, James, do you want to give us, because you probably know more than I do about geishas, do you want to give us an insight of what geishas are? Or what they used to be?
So geishas are only women. And they were a staple of like traditional Japan. Now, I'm going to throw it back to it and ask you what you think a geisha did.
So, they were more for entertaining guests, keeping them company, providing drinks. They were kind of like waitresses, but in a more
classy, waitresses.
intimate, well-mannered way.
Yeah, see, I'm surprised because most people think that they were essentially prostitutes.
Yeah.
No, see, I look at geishas and don't think prostitute because it's they are just classy.
Yeah, well, like they were essentially a form of entertainment. Like, I guess I don't want to say escorts because they weren't. Like, there was nothing sexual about it, but it was kind of close to that, where it's like you'd pay for them to come and entertain you, but it was literally entertainment. Like and when I say entertainment as well, say if you were having like a dinner party and you wanted geishas there, they would sit and eat and like talk to the guests. It wasn't like they wouldn't come out and do a show and it'd be like, hey, the geishas are on at 8. Like they'd be there as part of the party, but everyone would know they were geisha. Also, everyone's seen geishas, they know how they look and dress, so it's like you'd know it was a geisha, but they were there to help keep things going and entertain the guests. And they would do stuff like massages and things, but it wasn't like it would never go beyond that. And also, you'd have to know that like Japan's a super respectful country, which we have spoke about a bunch of times already on this podcast, but they'd know going into it that that's all it was going to be. And it was like you'd have a form of respect between the two anyway. But it was like a staple of traditional Japan. They come and like serve the tea and stuff, and they know how to do all that. Like again, that's something you get into as a child, and it's a way of life. You're taught how to respectfully talk to people and how to respectfully treat people and serve people, because they would do they bring the food out and the drinks out and stuff, but then they'd sit and eat and talk to the guests and socialize with people. So they're essentially just like really glorified guests, I guess, at a party.
But you could hire them.
Guests that you pay for, basically. Yeah, you hire the guests to make sure your party doesn't get boring, pretty much.
Yeah, and they just sort of look pretty and keep everyone happy.
The geisha's makeup and that, and the way you look is, I think it's proper unique and cool.
It's sick.
It's so awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The amount of effort
really
that must go into getting that whole setup is...
Yeah, it's a whole morning routine, that, isn't it, basically?
And they're trained in doing it as well. Like that's part of their lifestyle as they grow up and are showing all the different ways that they have to live. Because again, it's a set of rules that you have to live by and a life that you have to follow, which still exists today, and it essentially still exists in exactly the same way. I think they're only. I mean, they're probably in other places, but I know they're primarily in Kyoto. Like, if you want to go and see geishas, you can just go to Kyoto. That's where like a bunch of them live and like live their life and stuff. And you can hire them there as well, and they do exactly the same thing. Like they'll just like entertain you and your guests at events in exactly the same way. So they'll serve you food and they'll sit and talk to the guests and stuff, and they'll laugh at your jokes and play games with you and stuff like that. So it's like the geishas haven't really changed that dramatically. It's just like society has changed around them, so they still exist in that exact traditional way. They've got the same makeup and the same dress and they do the same thing, but the world has like changed around that. So it kind of looks mad and out of place now. If you ever go and watch like documentaries on them, like modern day geishas, it'll be like dudes in suits that have just got out of work and they've got like the weekend off and they want to relax. So it'll be like 5 guys all in their suits with their briefcases, and then a bunch of like super traditional geishas will come in and be like serving them tea and stuff. It's mad.
Is there like weird question, but it could be a yes. Is there like geisha cafes in like Tokyo?
No, I don't think so. Anyway,
I mean, I've never seen any.
I think essentially there's like, I think it's called an okaya or an okoyo or something like that. It's kind of like a temple or house, like a shared communal space again like the sumo, where they all kind of stay, and that's where you go to try and like get them as well, I believe. Like, if you want geishas at your birthday party, you have to go to this like shared communal space thing, and
the way you said it though sounds like you're gonna go catch one.
Fair though.
you do you. You're probably gonna get arrested if you try and catch one, but you know.
Like speaking of that, like, are there geisha cafes? I've never seen any, but I reckon the whole May Cafe vibe stems from that, because they're definitely super, super similar. It's just a modern day geisha, really.
Well, pretty much, yeah, because the maid cafes are there to do the same kind of thing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Make sure you're happy, entertain you, and just cater to your needs, pretty much, isn't it?
Definitely.
I don't know if they've got massages in maid cafes or anything like.
No, well, they do in certain parts of Shinjuku.
Certain areas.
Yeah.
Red light
Certain
district.
back alleys. Oh,
We saw 2 geishas, didn't we? And when we
Oh
went to
yeah, we
Japan.
did in the Skytree. Yeah.
Oh, really?
In
That's
fact,
pretty cool.
if you've got the photos, you can slap them in here.
I should do.
And if
Give him a slap in there.
yeah,
Should do somewhere.
yeah, they were
That's pretty
sick.
cool.
I remember
Just
we'd
wandering
like
around.
split up and we were just like wandering around separately, and I walked past them and I was like, oh my god, and then I was like, where the hell is Jake? I have to find Jake right now. And I was like running around trying to find Jake. I was like, Jake, there's geishas over there.
James ran up to me.
Geisha.
So James ran up to me, and as James ran up to me and was telling me that there was geishas, I saw them walking in the background. I tuned James out entirely and just started going.
Not making it obvious at all that you were staring.
No, I went and asked him if we could have a photo.
Yeah.
That's cool. Did he let you as well? Did he?
Yeah.
Is that what the photo is?
Yeah, these photos
That's
Jake's gonna
awesome.
put up, and not just like snidey little sly photos with them.
It just like
That's what I thought it was. I thought you like ran ahead of them and hid somewhere to take a photo
Just
of
ran,
these geishas.
ran like 2 miles ahead and just go like that with the selfie camera so that they're in the background.
So like, were they just nice and just like generally wanted to like have a photo? Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
Don't
they
worry
were just
about
alright
it.
with it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
The whole,
like they
the
were
whole
there
dress-up
taking
was sick.
photos, like with the whole skyline behind them and stuff. Because they were
Okay.
in like the full gear and that. I bet their photos they took looked sick, to be honest.
They would do, yeah. They have like those umbrellas with them as well, like
I
the
think they did,
geisha
didn't they?
umbrellas.
I can't remember. I
I
think,
want to say they did. I
Yeah.
can't. I'm
I think they did, but I
super
think it was
sure,
like
but
folded
I think
down,
they did.
and they were just carrying it around.
Okay,
It was sick though.
that's pretty cool.
It was the first and only geishas we saw when we were there. But
At
they
least
looked
you saw
awesome.
some.
Yeah,
That's
but
the main
to be
thing.
fair, like if you want to see him, you can go and see him in Kyoto. Like we just didn't, but like we could definitely do that.
Yeah, and go find them and get like a geisha service.
Yeah, I wonder how much it costs for like. I assume you pay by hour or something, don't you?
I assume it's expensive as well.
Yeah, I
Would-
bet it is,
would
but
that
also
work for us?
it's like
though,
a once in
with
a
being
lifetime
English?
thing, isn't it?
I
Yeah.
assume they thought of it already. I mean, they're gonna have tourists come along that are English. They'll probably be like still sound with it.
Yeah, it's
'Cause
got to
it's
be
money.
a tourist attraction on it at this point.
Yeah,
In some
And
way,
the-
yeah, I'd probably.
they must rake in money from tourists wanting to get the geisha experience.
James May went on his little show that he did.
Oh my god, yeah. I haven't watched that yet.
I haven't.
need to watch that at
It's
some point.
pretty good, to be fair. I'd watch it.
I need to watch James May and I need to watch Russell Howard do it as well.
Oh, Russell Howard's one's amazing.
James's
I
mate.
didn't know
It's
Russell Howard's
so
done
funny.
He went with his
Yeah,
mum.
he went with his mum. it's so funny.
I'll have to watch that.
Your mate,
He's done ninja
and you
training.
haven't even watched it.
Ah, yeah.
done-
My mate Russ.
Yeah,
Your mate Russ.
Sorry, Russ. I'll get on
they
that.
done a ninja training together, him and his mum, and it's amazing.
Was that in Osaka?
I think so.
'Cause
yeah,
he's
it's
in-
like in like a.
Is a ninja school in Osaka?
It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool actually, and his mum's just so funny as well.
His mum's a
Yeah, so
typical
that's-
like British mum,
She is.
and it just makes for some amazing moments in the whole show.
James May
Definitely worth a watch.
is a super cringy.
I can
Like,
imagine.
He's so
Doesn't
he's so
surprise
embarrassing
me.
I can
sometimes.
imagine.
It's James May. James May is cringy
I remember
anyway.
But
at
it
one
makes it
point,
funny.
I was joking with you. You helped me with something, and I was joking around, going "Arigato gozaimasu," and you went, "That's how James May actually pronounced it," and I was like, "Oh no,
Oh my
oh
god.
no."
Yeah. Yeah, he kept
Gozaimasu.
saying gozaimasu. and like desu and stuff like that.
Desu.
Which, if you don't know, the U is silent in all of that stuff.
Well, that's why when in friggin' One Piece, when they say Desian, it's Desian. The U's silent, isn't it? Even though it reads as Desuyan, it's Desian. And I hate when everyone in One Piece uses that at the end of a sentence.
But that's something, actually, coming back to the sub and dub thing. The whole Detibayo thing from Naruto, like, when, like, prefixes on the end of words, suffixes, in Japanese is, like, super common, like des, which we've just spoke about. And Detibayo is just Naruto's own one that he made up. So it's like, it's something only he says.
It doesn't actually even mean believe it, does it?
It doesn't mean anything, because none of it means anything. Like, even des doesn't mean anything. It's just a keigo form of, like, showing that you are speaking to someone with respect. So you stick it on the end, but it doesn't, as a word, it doesn't mean anything. And Detibayo didn't mean anything either. It was just Naruto's own version that he'd made up. So the fact that they translated, like, it was like when they were doing the dub, they were like, what are we going to make Detibayo? Like, we have to make it something. It's like, you didn't, though. It didn't have to be anything.
Yeah.
You could have just never said it instead of making up the annoying believe it catchphrase.
I think they probably looked at it and went, well, Detibayo is his catchphrase in the sub, so we need a catchphrase for him, and they just went with believe it.
It's just dumb.
Unfortunately, we believe it.
But it also shows how ignorant they were back then of all that stuff. Like, they literally could have just left it out because it didn't mean anything anyway. But
yeah.
And they had a translator to translate it, or at least had a script, so they probably would have known that as well.
Yeah, I bet he said, or whoever the translator was, has been like, oh, that's his catchphrase. And they've gone, oh, we'll have to make a catchphrase up for him, then. But it's like,
believe it!
Well, you didn't. Because he says it like at the end of every sentence, but that's how it works in Japan. In English, just having him say believe it after every sentence is like the most annoying thing ever.
It was. I can't even lie.
Instantly turn off the dub, straight to the sub.
That's why he's probably... Ooh, fucking hell. That's probably why he's not one of my favourite characters in the show, despite the fact he's the main character.
Did he still say it in Shippuden?
I think he says it every now and then, but it's in a more, like, serious way. Like, he'll be, like, talking to the enemy, and he'll be like, I will defeat you and achieve peace, believe it. But it's kind of like, it's not as cringy, but it's a bit, still, yeah.
I will become the Hokage one day. Believe it. It's like, oh, no, please, just don't even bother, mate. Just stop saying it.
He did, though. Big up my boy Naruto.
Oh, no, he did, but, I mean, saying believe it after every sentence is still shit. He's not Parappa the Rapper. In case you don't know, his Parappa Rapper's catchphrase is, I gotta believe, so... When he says at the end of every single sentence, so maybe they got that from Naruto.
The thing is, though, it's so annoying because, like, in sub, it sounds so cool. Like, you'll just say a sentence and it'll just end in that way, and it's like, that's sick. But then obviously they've translated it to English and it sounds awful. I hate it.
Yep.
It's gone from one extreme to the other.
To be fair, like, it might be annoying in Japanese for Japanese people because it doesn't mean anything.
Maybe.
Like,
it might be annoying.
It's literally made up for the show to the point where for them it might actually be kind of similar. Because for us, it's annoying. For them, it just keeps saying something that didn't mean anything.
Maybe.
I mean, maybe, but then a
bunch
of Japanese kids just running around saying it, and it was like, "Oh, this is really cool. Actually, let's keep it going."
Yeah, but maybe they'd all take it on as their catchphrase.
Yeah. Then also though, I think because I'm sure Sasuke had one, and I think I remember what it is, but his I think actually meant something. He used to say.
I mean, they do exist. It's just
Usada
that Naruto
Tonkachi,
doesn't.
which I think is idiot, or like a more extreme way, because obviously idiot is just baka, or stupid is baka. Sorry. Oh no, loser. It was loser. Usada Tonkachi, because you'd always call Naruto Usada Tonkachi.
Okay.
And that actually had a meaning, I think.
Probably.
I don't know.
I think it's only Naruto that does it, because I remember when I was being taught about the different suffixes and prefixes, my tutor mentioned Naruto specifically. He was like, just in case you've ever wondered why he always says that at the end, it's because it's his version of it, but he just made it up, so it doesn't actually mean anything.
Oh, okay. Weird. It's weird they made up a random word
weird,
just
but
like
cool.
to put at the end of a sentence.
At least in my opinion.
It is cool. I mean, it's memorable, isn't it? The English one definitely is.
For all the wrong reasons.
For all the very wrong reasons. Christ. Cool.
Yeah. Is there any other, going back to the culture section? Is there any other things? I suppose we've kind of mentioned this before a few times, and this isn't really like a lifestyle and occupation, but it's kind of like tradition. But like temples existing in the city.
That's pretty cool. Like still.
It's pretty sick.
But I feel like some people, I assume, still follow Shinto religion. Somewhat. I know the sumos do. Like the sumos have like a ritual before they fight where they salt the ring and like brush, which I think is to do with like getting rid of the evil spirits and stuff and like purifying the ground before they fight on it. Which is a Shinto tradition that they used to do to like purify the land and stuff like that, which sumo still do now before they fight on the ring. So presumably sumo, part of that lifestyle is following like the Shinto guidance and beliefs and stuff. So I would guess that the temples are definitely still used, aren't they? Because we've seen people in them. So
well, we had people in them. We've seen people going into them, and we've seen that they were closed sometimes. So
temples being around like modern stuff isn't actually like strange because we have
I
like
was gonna say it's like our churches,
still.
Isn't it? Really?
Yeah, we have all the shit churches.
There's something a little bit different about it in Japan because I guess the churches just like don't look as out of place here.
No, I think it's because we're used to it though. I mean, like, maybe
especially with like Liverpool, they're kind of still similar architecture, but churches.
But maybe like people in Japan who are native to Japan, when they see the dojos and stuff like that and the temples, they look normal to them because they're used to it. Whereas if someone goes over and sees a church, like, what the fuck is that thing in the middle of nothing?
No, well, kind of, but also no, because as James explained to me on the last podcast, we did see people in Tokyo taking pictures of them, and I was like, that must be a normal thing to them. James was like, no, but it's kind of different because it's like sightseeing. It's like if you went down to London, you'd be taking pictures of like the skyscraper, like the Shard and stuff there, and it's like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I don't really necessarily go around England taking pictures of churches, like, so I suppose it is different.
I bet someone does somewhere, though.
Oh, someone's definitely a church spotter. Went down to Bristol the other day and got a belter of a church in the album.
Yeah, it's definitely not me.
To be fair, some of the like really old churches are pretty cool, like the ones that
some of them,
Gothic
they look
cathedral
like
type ones, yeah. They're sick.
I mean, saying that, I'd love to go to Rome and see the Sistine Chapel because that looks amazing, and the whole the Vatican and stuff. That's just awesome. I have no interest in religion at all.
I was gonna say I don't, but I'd love to see the architecture.
But it looks cool. It looks amazing. So yeah, some churches can be cool. The one down the road from me now, probably not.
I've got two by me. One's abandoned and one's still operating, but it's alright.
The one down the road from me is a Methodist church, I think. It looks shit.
It's fair. The one like down my road is pretty sick. It's still got like the arrow slits in it and stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's one near you, I think, isn't there? With near the motorway, it's got like a big ass fucking like triangle steeple on it and stuff.
Oh yeah, that's
looks
the
cool.
What they call it? What's the name for like a Catholic church?
Let's just call it Catholic church.
Yeah.
No, but don't they have? Sure.
There's probably a name for it, but slot it in here now, Jake.
Yeah, if I find it, it's in here, I guess.
Yeah. Everyone is tuning into the Japanese podcast to find out what Catholic churches are called.
Also, if you're an audio-only listener, rip.
F in the chat for you.
Rip. Yeah, you're saying nothing there. I mean, so what? So we discussed sub versus dub and basically came to the conclusion that they're both as good as each other, depending on whatever you want to watch.
I mean, it depends on your interest, really. It's the whole...
I feel like we were also supposed to cover manga versus anime, but we didn't.
We can be with another guest.
We might save that for a future episode with another particular FishStakes guest.
Yeah. We'll keep that mystery alive for now, and you'll find
Stay
out who
tuned
it
for
is
that
when it
episode.
happens.
Is it gonna be Morgan?
Is it gonna be Morgan? Who's it gonna be? No, I think that'll wrap us up nicely today.
Yeah, that's fine by me.
Yeah. So tune in next month to find out who Morgan will be. Matt on it.
Peace.
Bye bye.